Why do some men get overlooked, disrespected, or used, while others are treated with instant respect, even when they say almost nothing? Here's the Stoic truth. Women don't respect words, they respect standards. And nothing commands deeper attraction than a man with clear, calm, unshakable boundaries. These aren't walls, they're signals. They show her and the world exactly what you will and will not allow. Most men bend to keep her interest. But the Stoic man, he walks away without noise the moment his values are crossed. And that silence, that stillness, it leaves a lasting impression. Right now, you might think being flexible earns you love. But the men women take seriously are the ones who can walk alone and mean it. If you're ready to learn the 5 boundaries that shift you from option to authority, like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment. My boundaries are my power. Number 1. The quiet power of refusing disrespect. There is a moment small, silent, but seismic, when a man chooses between his comfort and his code. Perhaps it comes as a joke made at his expense in public, a subtle eye roll during a serious moment, or a comparison she casually throws in. Dressed in, "I was just being honest." Most let it slide. They smile, deflect, or say nothing, hoping the moment will pass without confrontation. But that's the moment that defines how hell be treated from then on. And that's the moment most men lose a piece of themselves without knowing. Disrespect rarely arrives like thunder. It comes like a drizzle, consistent, barely noticeable, but persistent enough to erode your self-worth one droplet at a time. It's the sarcasm that cuts a little deeper than it should, the interruptions that never get addressed, the way she talks about you to her friends when you're not in the room. It's not the grand betrayal, it's the slow chipping away of admiration. And here's the hard truth: what you allow is what will continue. If you tolerate it once, you've just set a standard shall follow. Why does this happen? Because boundaries are the unseen lines that determine how people move around us. And when a man allows his lines to blur, when he confuses being agreeable with being respected, he becomes forgettable. Women, by nature, test boundaries not out of malice, but to feel the weight of your presence. If she can sway you, silence you, or push you without resistance, she may stay, but she won't admire you. And without admiration, love has no spine. She cannot submit to a man she does not respect. She cannot melt into a man who disappears in the face of conflict. Modern culture has taught men to chase peace at all costs, 7 at the price of their dignity. But peace bought through passivity is not peace. It's surrender. It's smiling through insults. It's justifying disrespect with phrases like, "She didn't mean it like that." But let me ask you this: if she didn't mean it like that, why do you feel the sting? Why do you feel smaller, not stronger? Here's the truth: respect isn't demanded. It's modeled, and it's enforced not with rage, not with revenge, but with presence and principle. When a woman crosses the line, you don't yell, you don't lecture. You calmly, clearly state, "Don't speak to me like that again." And if she repeats it, you walk not out of drama, but out of discipline. Because the moment you let disrespect slide, you tell her, "My standards are flexible if I like you enough," and that is the beginning of your erosion. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, taught that justice begins not with punishing others, but with honoring the soul. When you allow disrespect, you participate in the betrayal of your own integrity. When you respond to it with clarity and composure, you preserve your soul's foundation. That is justice, not the kind that seeks revenge, but the kind that says, "I matter," even if you forget. In relationships, this boundary is magnetic. When you refuse to tolerate subtle forms of disrespect, when you address them, not to punish, but to teach, you become a mirror that reflects her higher self back to her. You invite her to rise, not because you force her, but because you refuse to fall. You create a container of strength, and within it, she feels safe enough to soften. But the moment you excuse bad behavior in the name of love, you invite contempt. Because deep down, she's not looking for a man she can walk over. She's looking for one she can look up to. And here's what most don't understand: kindness without backbone invites manipulation. Being gentle without principle is not love, it's enabling. You can be warm and unshakable, loving and immovable, tender and untouchable. These are not contradictions. These are the pillars of real masculinity. So what should you do? Practically, don't correct with emotion. Correct with energy. The lower your voice, the stronger your words. Don't explain your standards. State them once. Enforce them silently. People learn through consequences, not conversations. Don't apologize for your worth. The moment you do, you turn your boundary into a suggestion. And if she walks away after you stand your ground, let her. Because what's lost in attraction is gained in self-respect. And self-respect always leads you to better connections. You don't need to fight to earn respect. You need to live in such a way that losing you is the real punishment. And that begins when you decide disrespect is where my presence ends. Now, speak out and comment below, I don't reward disrespect. I walk with dignity. Number 2, guard your peace like a king guards his crown. There's a kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't show up in the gym. It doesn't wear a suit. It doesn't raise its voice. It's the man who walks into a room and carries no chaos, no frantic energy, no need to prove himself, just stillness. And yet, the room shifts because peace is power, and peace is rare. Most men chase power through status, money, validation, even women. But they ignore the most magnetic quality of all: a man who cannot be shaken. A man whose internal world is not dictated by external storms. A man who guards his peace like it's the very source of his life, because it is. Peace isn't passive. It's not avoiding conflict or suppressing emotion. It's choosing where your energy goes, who gets access to you, and what deserves a reaction. It's saying no, not out of anger, but out of alignment. It's understanding that chaos is everywhere, but it only enters when you leave the door open. Why is this boundary so essential? Because a man without peace becomes reactive. He texts out of desperation. He explains himself when he doesn't need to. He chases apologies. He fights battles that were never his to begin with. And in that state, he becomes predictable, weak, drained, and unattractive. Women don't follow men who are constantly explaining, apologizing, or begging for clarity. They follow men who have clarity within themselves. Let me paint a picture. She withdraws. Her tone shifts. She becomes cold, starts testing you with silence or sarcasm. The average man takes the bait. He panics, asks what's wrong, sends long paragraphs, chases closure. But the man who guards his peace, he stays still, not cold still. He notices the storm, but doesn't become it. He gives her the space to feel, to process, to return or not. And in that stillness, she senses something unfamiliar: stability. And that is magnetic. Because most women are not used to a man who doesn't mirror their chaos, who doesn't react with anger or neediness, who can hold the silence without collapsing into it. In that moment, your peace becomes her invitation to calm. And the more she respects your energy, the more she will rise to match it. But peace isn't just about romantic dynamics, it's about your entire way of living. The man who guards his peace doesn't let every opinion enter his mind, doesn't attend every argument he's invited to, doesn't sacrifice sleep or solitude just to prove he's available, doesn't let toxic conversations rent space in his soul. He curates his life like an emperor, curates his court. Only those who nourish his vision are welcome. Stoic philosophy calls this temperance, the discipline to say no, to delay reaction, to act from principle rather than impulse. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself," and guarding your peace is the highest form of self-mastery. It's not about being emotionless. It's about emotional sovereignty. When you own your peace, no woman can weaponize her emotions to manipulate you. No drama can pull you out of character. You can still love deeply, but from a place of overflow, not lack. So what does this look like in practice? Protect your routines like your sanity depends on them, because it does. Morning silence, training, journaling. These are not luxuries. They are anchors. Say no more often, not with guilt, but with grace. No, I'm not available tonight. Full stop. No explanation needed. When drama arises, choose stillness first. Breathe. Step back. Observe. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Or is it just noise? Declutter your digital world. Stop checking your phone the moment you wake up. Stop replying to messages that bring stress. Your peace is more precious than your notifications. Because when you guard your peace, something powerful happens. You stop being easily moved. You become consistent, predictable in values, not in need. And that's what creates deep respect from others. And more importantly, from yourself. Peace is not the absence of noise. It's the refusal to let the noise define you. So the next time the world pulls at your attention, the drama, the games, the opinions, the demands, remember this. You are the gatekeeper. Your peace is your responsibility. And when you protect it, you lead from it. Now, comment below, I protect my peace, no matter the storm. Number 3, don't share. Too much keep mystery. Keep power. There is a kind of silence that speaks louder than any confession, a kind of restraint that invites curiosity, not confusion. A man who reveals too much too soon is not seen as deep, is seen as easy to decode. And what's easy to decode is easy to dismiss. We live in an age of oversharing. Social media teaches men to equate vulnerability with emotional dumping. Popular culture says, if you don't spill your heart, you're emotionally unavailable. But let's be brutally honest, most men who overshare aren't being courageous, they're being careless. Here's the truth. Mystery creates magnetism, and magnetism is born from contrast depth that isn't immediately offered, openness that must be earned. A man who controls what he shares commands respect. Why is this boundary so important? Because when you share your deepest wounds, insecurities, or traumas too soon, you remove the natural tension that creates polarity. You go from being a mountain she wants to climb to a diary she didn't ask to read. She may feel sympathy, but sympathy isn't attraction. What's worse, you become the emotional project, the one she has to heal, fix, guide, and no woman wants to mother the man she desires. The more she feels responsible for your emotional balance, the less she feels drawn to your strength. Let's reframe vulnerability not as emotional nudity, but as strategic self-disclosure. It's the art of revealing enough to invite connection, without dissolving the edge of mystery. It's sharing a story of resilience, not a spiral of current chaos. It's saying, yes, I've been through fire, not dragging her into the ashes. This doesn't mean be cold. It means be deliberate. Vulnerability should be earned, not dumped. In Stoicism, this is called wisdom, knowing what to say, when to say it, and who has earned the right to hear it. Marcus Aurelius never journaled for validation. He wrote for clarity, not applause. His vulnerability was private because that's where true strength is forged. Here's how you apply it in practice. Maintain emotional boundaries early on. Don't share past heartbreaks, family traumas, or deep fears within the first few conversations. Not because they don't matter, but because timing matters more. Process emotions on your own first. Use journaling, mentors, or solitude. When you speak to her, let it come from reflection, not reaction. Answer personal questions with intention. For example, instead of saying, I have deep abandonment issues, say, I've had to learn how to trust myself more than others. instead of "I'm scared of failing." Say, "Pressure sharpens me. I just make sure it doesn't own me." You're still being real, but from a place of mastery, not messiness. What's the impact? You keep the air of unpredictability. She wonders, what's underneath that calm? She leans in. She earns your layers, one by one. And when you do open up after, she's invested. After there's trust, it lands deeper, because it's rare, because it's earned, and more than anything, it keeps the relationship balanced. Men who overshare too soon often get trapped in an emotional imbalance. She becomes the listener, he becomes the emotional supplier. The polarity flips, and over time, admiration turns into emotional exhaustion. But when you share with intention, when your words are arrows, not splashes, you stay rooted in strength. She sees a man who can feel, but also lead, who can be open, but not exposed. In a world of noise, you become signal. In a sea of men who beg to be seen, you become the one she chooses to study. Because the truth is, a man who reveals himself like a sunrise slow, radiant, unfolding, leaves a lasting impression. Not because he hides who he is, but because he honors it enough to offer it slowly. Now, comment below, "I protect my mystery, not my wounds." Number 4. No emotional reactivity become the calm in her storm. When the storm hits, who are you? Do you rise like a mountain, still and unshaken, or do you get swept away like leaves in the wind? One of the clearest signs of masculine power is emotional sovereignty, the ability to stay centered, composed, and grounded regardless of what chaos surrounds you. And yet, so many men fail this test not because they're weak, but because they've never learned to separate emotion from reaction. Let's clarify something. Emotional reactivity is not passion. It is powerlessness. It's when you chase after someone who withdraws. It's when you explain yourself over and over, hoping to be understood. It's when you lash out, beg, or try to prove your worth through words, only to be met with distance. And she feels it. A woman senses when a man is ruled by his feelings instead of rooted in his frame. And in that moment, her attraction turns into anxiety because now she has to lead emotionally, when what she truly desires is a man who can lead himself. Why is this boundary so critical? If she costs me my peace, she's too expensive. Stay calm, because walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom backed by self-respect. When you react emotionally, you are not responding to her. You are reacting to your own inner fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being unloved. But stoic courage means confronting that fear silently, without turning it into theatre. So how does emotional reactivity show up in romantic dynamics? She withdraws. You chase. She says something sarcastic. You bite back. She disrespects you. You explode or worse. Plead for her to understand you. Each reaction confirms her suspicion. You don't lead yourself. And if you can't lead yourself, she cannot follow you. But when you pause, breathe, and choose stillness over drama, something incredible happens. She begins to feel safe because your calm tells her, "I am not here to fight you. I am here to lead this moment with clarity." This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you don't meet chaos with more chaos. You respond with gravity, not volume. So, what's the stoic way to apply this? Observe the emotion, but don't act from it. Let the emotion rise, jealousy, anger, hurt, but let it pass like a wave without grabbing onto it. Pause before responding. A 3-second pause can save you from a 30-minute argument. Don't explain your worth, demonstrate it. Silence, followed by aligned action, speaks volumes. Train for this in solitude, journaling, cold exposure, delayed gratification. These are all micro-rehearsals for staying calm under emotional fire. Because the man who trains his nervous system becomes unshakable. Here's a practical scenario. She pulls away after an argument. Instead of chasing her with long texts, you go silent not out of pettiness, but out of principle. You are not a performer for her approval. You are a man with presence. If she returns, she does so to your peace, not your panic. That's Stoic strength. That's irresistible. In fact, the more you embody this principle, the more she unconsciously relaxes around you, not because you agree with everything, but because you can hold tension without crumbling. She sees that her waves don't move your foundation, and that makes you unforgettable. Because in a world full of emotional volatility, the man who leads with quiet confidence becomes a lighthouse, a fixed point in every storm. Now, speak out and comment below. I lead with calm, not chaos. Number 5. Always be willing to walk away. The power she can't control. What happens when your presence becomes permanent, regardless of how you're treated? She stops respecting it, because the moment you make it clear you'll never walk away, even if she disrespects you, manipulates you, or withdraws, love, what was once strength, becomes submission, and she can feel it. This isn't about abandonment. This is about power. The power of self-respect. The power of detachment. The power of walking away not to punish her, but to protect yourself. Let's be honest, most men stay too long in misaligned relationships. They tolerate emotional roller coasters. They justify the disrespect. They cling to the potential of who she was, rather than the reality of who she is now. But what they don't realize is that by staying in what no longer aligns with their values, they send a loud, unspoken message. My standards are negotiable, and once your standards become negotiable, so does her respect. Why does this matter so deeply? Because as Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If your peace, your purpose, or your integrity is being threatened, and you stay, you become your own obstacle. A man who's willing to walk away is not cold. Here's clear. He understands this. If being loved requires you to betray yourself, it's not love, it's bondage. Let's look at this in a romantic context. She crosses your boundary, and instead of reinforcing it, you explain and plead. She withholds affection, and instead of pulling back, you chase harder. She manipulates through drama, and instead of holding stillness, you collapse into reaction. Each time, the dynamic tilts further away from polarity. But when you walk away, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with peace, you introduce something she cannot control: loss. And that loss activates respect. She realizes you won't tolerate chaos, you won't beg, you won't stay where you're not honored. This is not a game. It's not silent treatment. It's the quiet announcement of your value. So how do you embody this boundary the Stoic way? Know your non-negotiables. What are the lines you refuse to cross even for someone you love? Identify them. Commit to them. Don't speak to prove, observe to decide. You don't need to argue or convince her. Let her actions show you who she is. Then act accordingly. Detach with clarity. If the relationship erodes your peace or purpose, release it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait to be pushed. Walk away with dignity. Leave cleanly, without drama or parting shots. Your silence will echo louder than any explanation. This boundary becomes especially important when manipulation is subtle, when the excuses pile up, when the connection starts to rot slowly, not with betrayal, but with avoidance, denial, and passive disrespect. The Stoic man doesn't wait for the house to burn to know the fire is real. He sees the signs early. He reads the patterns. And when the moment calls for it, he walks, because staying would be the real betrayal, a betrayal of his mission, his values, and his future self. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. If her love is conditional on you compromising yourself, then it was never love, it was control. And when you walk away, you reclaim the one thing no one can give you but you, your soul's alignment. Here's the irony. The man who is willing to walk away is the one she wants to stay, because he doesn't stay out of fear, he stays out of choice. And that kind of man is rare. He becomes the one she cannot manipulate, the one she must rise to meet, the one who reminds her of what strength truly looks like not in domination, but in detachment. Now, comment below, I'd rather walk alone than betray myself. You came here looking for respect. Now you know, respect begins with what you're willing to walk away from. These 5 boundaries aren't about control. They're about emotional leadership. And the woman who truly values you will never test what you calmly enforce. Remember, say no without explaining. Refuse to tolerate mixed signals. Never reward disrespect with access. Protect your time like it's currency. And never chase clarity expected. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And the moment you live by your boundaries without apology, you become that man. If you're ready to be respected instead of tolerated, like this video, subscribe, and comment. I don't demand respect, I live in a way that commands it. Stay grounded, stay firm. Because the man with boundaries doesn't fear losing anyone. He only fears losing himself.